Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity to present in front of this group, and I sincerely mean it is a fantastic opportunity to have some time in front of the Midlands Chief Clinical Information Officers. Andrew Hall is also on the call, and he's representing the east part of the Midlands conurbation in this. I'm just going to start very quickly on both Andrew and I's behalf and just giving an overview of the kind of core programme. And forgive me if there's anybody on the call who feels they're very familiar with this. I've come from the point that I'm assuming no prior knowledge, so apologies to anybody who feels differently. Okay, so what is this Secure Data Environment Programme? So this is an NHSE programme. It's running in parallel, I think is probably the best way to say that, to the Federated Data Programme. So there are two separate programs, but clearly there are relationships. What it signifies is national investment in a desire to operationalise the policy statement that the strategy statement that the Department of Health published back in 2022, which was around data saving lives, and it links also to the life sciences vision, so making best use and better use of the broad ecosystem of data that exists in the UK. There is alignment to the Goldacre Review. Some of you will be very familiar with that. A couple of important things to point out about the programme. So it does signal a step change in how access to health and social care data for research and development is going to be managed going forward. So it is, if you like, the first part of stepping onto the flight path toward what is being referred to as data access by default within a secure data environment owned, managed by the NHS. So that is a flight path. We're still some way away from a default position. It also signals commitment for NHS safe stewardship of data, and for that to be within NHS governed and managed secure environments. And I think really importantly, and we've seen toward the end of the year some of the Twitter and the publicity around the sister program to this, but importantly, public trust and confidence front and center of this program in relation to the safe use and access to health and social care data. Okay, this little cartoon is something that's completely familiar to everybody that's on this call. I mean, this is just a representation of all of the data silos. And so, the flight path for this is turning these data silos into research analysis ready data, and that is our collective problem to solve. I could also perhaps put in another little icon here for our university sector, because data is quite simply in many different places, but bringing that together in a coherent way to generate what's referred to as multimodal data sets and have those analysis ready for research purposes. So that's the programme. The West Midlands part of this is the West Midlands. So it's around 6.2 million population. Those of you that are from West Midlands ICB patch will be very familiar with this. We have two shared care records in the region, GraphNet and Intrasystems. There are 6 ICBs. And I think importantly in this space, we have an NIHR infrastructure that is pretty solid. So across the BRC, the Clinical Research Network, the ARC, Patient Safety Collaborative, and the MedTech Cooperative is now a health tech research centre, so that's been refunded. Also a substantial HDR UK footprint, not just in the west, but obviously across into the east as well, with the HDR UK Midlands substantive site bringing in east and west together, and then the experience of delivering some of the two of the themed HDR UK hubs, Insight and Pioneer. Path Lake was Innovate UK funded Centre of Excellence. That's down in the Coventry and Warwick neck of the West Midlands patch. And again, importantly, significant expertise in that patch dealing with pathology, digital pathology data. And of course, we've also had the benefit in the West Midlands, not just of the research infrastructure that has patient and public networks associated with it, but for example, some fantastic work led out of Birmingham community in terms of their Community Connect infrastructure, and there are a whole range of other organizations. So there is heterogeneity and maturity, but we have some very mature and well-formed networks, and we really are trying to consolidate those as part of this work, so working together. The mission for the West Midlands SDE is the delivery of executable knowledge that delivers improvements, enables discovery, catalyzes innovation. And importantly, and I've added this to our description, so working collaboratively across the region to identify and address local/regional problems with local/regional data for local/regional solutions, but with federation and linkage for national and international scale. And that's really important in our particular patch because the demographic that we have at West and East Midlands combined, really is globally representative. So if there are solutions that are important and that work in the Midlands region, then almost certainly there is significant learning to be shared at both national and international level. But all of that mission assured and enabled by robust governance structures, privacy protection by design, and I'm going to keep emphasizing this, very importantly, meaningful patient and public involvement and oversight in data use decision making. This is a quick snapshot of the structure of the governance for the West Midlands SDE. You'll see there that a data trust committee, I can talk to what that actually means, but this is primarily the executive level of that will be lay, as opposed to specialist in X, Y, or Z, and specialty expertise will be brought to that meeting to work with lay members. This research advisory group, we are just reconfiguring that. And again, we're trying to encourage as many people from our academic centres as well as our NHS centres to be part of that, because they're a key component to actually defining research questions to throw at any data that we bring together. And the green are work streams that are associated with the programme, and each of those work streams link to a national community of practice. So there is a commercial, for example, work stream at SDE in the West Midlands, and there is a national community of practice that brings together membership from across all of the SDEs nationally. So why do we need this? So again, it's important just to reflect to this. So bringing our data together, bringing data together at scale and having a regional focus to help us address some of the challenges that we absolutely have, particularly in the West Midlands region. You'll be familiar with these. So we also are seeking to align to support our ICSs deliver what they need to deliver against the core 20+5 requirements around reducing health inequalities for adults, and similarly for children. So those are target areas. I made the point about the research infrastructure, and again, I'll make another point about using this infrastructure to convene and catalyse research collaborations between the West Midlands and also the East Midlands with its BRCs, with its HDR UK presence. We have a significant, we have a significantly robust infrastructure to support and drive research collaborations and work in this particular area. And then convening collaborations around health technology development, the really key thing. So not just the widgets that are medical devices, but increasingly importantly, how we use this, this type of infrastructure to both develop novel AI as a medical device, to validate novel AI as a medical device, and to take the learning about how we might support the safe implementation of AI as a medical device. So again, research infrastructures exist to support those initiatives. This is a particular view around UHB. So the learning from running Insight as a data hub, running Pioneer as a data hub, Pathway is ethical approvals for to treat all of UHB data as a research database, and that is being utilised by primarily our UHB staff for the safe conduct of research projects. All of that translated into how we have approached the design, the build, and what we're intending to deliver for the West Midlands SDE. The journey so far. Okay, I've just some little snippets. The legal basis. So we have had an IG and ethics group working across the region. There is representation from different entities in each part of the geography of the West Midlands on that. And those staff from research and from information governance have collectively contributed to the development of our ethical application, our application for ethics, and to our application for CAG Section 251 for linkage. And that's at a point of pressing the button. Importantly, we've had patient and public input into both of those. So public trust, we have developed a patient and public advisory group that is in place. Again, linking across to other networks and infrastructure that are in place so that we begin to build, if you like, a citizen assembly. And there is a plan for communication and engagement and deliberative inquiry events, which is being supported by the Gem and Arden CSU. They're running comms for the West Midlands, and that is all about to start rolling out in addition to the patient and public groups we've already brought into the mix for this. The data, we've been working through data pipelines. There is a technical advisory group, again, made up of individuals from across the different ICB infrastructures and the secondary care organisations in the West Midlands. So looking to define data pipelines and working hand in hand with clinicians, clinical academics, which data pipelines should we prioritise 1, 2, and 3. The infrastructure for the West Midlands SDE is built. It is completely cloud architected. It's gone through its cybersecurity checks with the check certified. Kinetic has done that for us, and we have been working with the UK Statistical Authority as they define their accreditation framework for the national SDE network. So it's the UKSA that will provide accreditation and oversight, and we've been working with them to define and support what that might actually look like in tandem with a number of the other SDEs that are in flight. Looking at access, and so one of the things we have to do is harmonise and standardise processes for access. That's a key piece of work. And this last piece is a challenge, I think, for everybody. So building staff and skill competence profiles. So again, looking at SAFIA competencies, looking at where we are in terms of the workforce that we have, and using the SAFIA competencies as a way to drive the development of staff and meet some skills gaps. Sorry, going backwards. This is what the cloud architecture is, just a very flat view, looks like. So logical flow on the left-hand side of that, data ingress onto the platform. There are areas of this side, for example, is completely data controller controlled. And then there are handoffs between data controller, individual data controller to West Midlands SDE staff for onward processing through Safe Haven. So Safe Haven area, all of the required software you might expect to see associated with that. We've used the term TREs to designate, if you like, the access areas as opposed to the warehouse area of this. So trusted research environments, TRE, blobs on cloud, whatever way you want to describe those. And we have a concept of single tenancy and multiple tenancy TREs access to that data following processes of assessment, validation, due diligence, accreditation of people who would wish to access the data is from the right-hand side of this diagram. Key element of the network is making data findable. So the data as it goes on there will be a metadata catalog of that data generated. That metadata catalog will be displayed through the HDR UK Innovation Gateway. The West Midlands SDE has already filed metadata. It's a metadata catalog on that gateway, and it's accessible there. It just says these are the research ready data assets that we have, and that whole piece of making data findable, linking to findability, accessibility, interoperability and reusability, and the component parts of that in that little slide there. Making data accessible, a very key and very strong alignment to 5 SAFEs. So the ONS 5 SAFEs, so safe projects, people, setting, output and data. And nationally, there is work ongoing, for example, so that we have one single form for data access, requesting that there is one consolidated pathway for data access requesting processes, and where there is opportunity for appropriate automation of that, then that will come about. There needs to be alignment on what everybody means across the network around data trust committee processes, so the patient and public oversight. Interestingly enough, there's a concept developing of data license sharing agreements versus data access licensing fee structure. So that's a reflection of this piece around data access by default. So data access licensing refers to where access is given within a TRE, and data license would refer to the incidences where, for a range of exceptional, maybe those are legal, ethical, technical, for example, the requirement is to egress data to an other environment. And then there's also some discussion going around about output-based contracting as part of those access agreements, and cloud-based TRE costing, and how we basically drive down collectively the cost of flexible compute on cloud. There is also an evolving commercial strategy, because at some point there does need to be a route to sustainability for this infrastructure, and the evolving commercial strategy will be around providing cross-sector business services, so to NHS, biotech, pharma, and so on. And almost certainly the kind of business service lines will look something like data as a service, infrastructure as a service, or, for example, consultancy as a service as we support other infrastructures. These are just connect with us, contact details, and we'd like to encourage as many people as possible to get involved. You'll get these slides. And then the final thing is thank you. And I'm going to hand over to Andrew, if that's all right, Tanya.